There are some people walking this world with a gravity all their own, drawing change without even trying, flipping every script just by existing. If that's you, understand that your presence alone has begun a ripple that no one can chart, and it's about to turn the unthinkable into the inevitable. Without warning, a silent disruption sweeps through the lives of those who tried to outmaneuver fate itself. The strategies built against your progress are quietly unraveling, their blueprints now riddled with gaps they never noticed. While old power structures scramble for answers, the real transformation is happening at a level they can't touch, a level where every action you take sets off a sequence of unexpected turns. Momentum is building in invisible spaces. What once threatened to cage you now fractures from within, as unseen currents overturn the very order they trusted. Every attempt to hold you back only accelerates their undoing. While the surface world fixates on control, something beneath is shifting for good, reshaping the rules and setting new terms. The tables are turning, quietly but without mercy, and the aftermath will echo far beyond what they ever imagined. Those who carry rare awareness often find themselves in landscapes built by other people's limits. But something wild happens when a spirit refuses to be defined by borrowed boundaries. No one can confine the horizon for a soul that's outgrown every charted space. While some remain convinced that familiar routines will hold, the script is quietly being rewritten in places they don't even know exist. The day came when approval lost its power, not through withdrawal, but through an inner shift that made old rules irrelevant. What looked like isolation was actually the birthplace of new domains, where former authorities have no voice or access. The world they think they understand is only a faded echo of the territory now claimed by this untethered will. Adversity became a kind of apprenticeship, each letdown strengthening inner defenses far beyond ordinary survival. Subtle shifts taught a mind to spot hidden patterns and unspoken motives before they surfaced. Every twist of fate installed an internal compass capable of sorting the real from the artificial, the loyal from the opportunist. Growth was never accidental. Every silent moment added another layer to a foundation so steady it can't be shaken. Now, even unspoken truths have a way of exposing what's been hidden, as silent resolve forces the surface to reveal its secrets, one confession at a time. Some spirits radiate a patience that isn't surrender. It's the silent charge of a force waiting for the right moment to rewrite what's possible. People who misread calm as weakness soon face a surprise. What looked gentle was simply untapped voltage, held steady until it bends the landscape. In a world where criticism and gossip fly like debris, true mastery is found in turning friction into progress. Resistance becomes the raw material for inner elevation, with each attempted slight reshaped into the building blocks of resilience and focus. Every attempt to limit growth actually powers new breakthroughs, igniting changes that travel farther than those who resist could ever predict. What unsettles the old order is rarely noise or defiance, but a precision of action that's impossible to forecast. Plans are made quietly, and each decision lands where it's needed without explanation or apology. There's a strategy in subtlety, movements that leave no obvious trail, intentions that remain a mystery even as they shift the environment. This isn't about public declarations or viral displays. The true rewiring happens off-stage, where social scripts don't apply and authenticity operates beyond observation. Transformation demanded questioning every lesson handed down, dissolving patterns that chained others to cycles of repetition. In this space, reaction was replaced with response, and habits dissolved into freedom. Once change became a conscious act, the need to conform evaporated. Boundaries imposed by others couldn't contain what was self-forged. The unpredictable became the unstoppable, leaving those reliant on control scrambling to adapt. But the effect doesn't end with internal growth. Those who once mocked or challenged are haunted by a sense of unfinished business, visions of missed chances and roles reversed. Subtle shifts in perspective become ongoing reminders of what might have been, nudging them toward awareness they can't unsee. This is not chaos, but a gentle unraveling of illusion that spills over into everyday thoughts. Something deeper is unfolding, as perception itself begins to glitch. Encounters no longer match expectations, leaving old adversaries unable to reconcile memory with reality. Attempts to categorize or dismiss fall flat, because the presence before them refuses to fit the roles assigned. A new pattern takes hold, not a disruption, but an evolution, where the original script is gone and the game can't be played by the old rules. Some souls carry an ability to turn opposition itself into fuel for growth, even when their critics don't realize they're providing the raw material for a higher purpose. That's a rare kind of momentum. Adversity becomes the unexpected architect of breakthroughs, and those who meant to disrupt only end up accelerating the very progress they fear. Strange patterns unfold as the fabric of intention reverses itself. The same hands that tried to dismantle are suddenly losing their grip, while the outcomes they sought to control slip further from reach. What's been set in motion can't be undone by old tactics, as if the rules of cause and effect quietly rewrote themselves when the need for acceptance dissolved. Attempts to sway opinion are powerless in a realm where inner clarity is the only compass, and attempts at manipulation are absorbed and rechanneled, never allowed to set the terms. Separation, once intended as punishment, reveals its hidden side, a private world where silence nurtures the next chapter, untouched by outside agendas. In these unseen spaces, renewal is happening on a level others cannot observe, as quiet hours multiply strength and every withdrawal from noise deepens inner stability. No outer exile can shake a foundation that's self-forged, and every solitary stretch becomes a doorway to talents that outlast any strategy designed to suppress. Meanwhile, those who once needed crowds and distractions to feel significant find themselves lost in the echo of their own demands, while the one who's learned to thrive alone stands anchored and unshakable. True confidence blooms not from applause but from an honest reckoning with self, a vision shaped in peace, not in noise. Attention becomes irrelevant, and the solitude meant to isolate instead becomes a sacred ground where guidance flows unimpeded, self-worth becomes self-evident, and being unseen turns out to be the greatest protection of all. ChatGPT soar. Sometimes the strongest among us are those willing to break the silence, to question the rituals passed down like old currency, even when it means standing alone in rooms built on shared pain. It's not applause that greets this kind of courage. It's pushback, skepticism, even hostility from those who benefit most from the old scripts. But there comes a point where patterns inherited over generations are no longer disguised as virtues, and the cycle finally stops spinning in the same familiar groove. Refusing to wear labels crafted by others, the decision was made to dismantle inherited narratives, to challenge those old codes that taught limitation and called it loyalty. Generational routines of guilt, misplaced pride, and self-erasure were melted away in a new furnace of clarity. In their place emerged boundaries forged from honesty and new rules rooted in self-respect. What began as rebellion quietly transformed into the repair of wounds both past and future. It's an irony rarely spoken. Those who criticize the loudest often carry the same burdens, still tethered to stories you refuse to repeat. The background noise of rumor and judgment fades to silence, not because the drama is over, but because the story has grown too powerful to control. The very act of stepping into truth turns ordinary presence into a subtle disruptor, shaking loose what others tried to hide even from themselves. Unaware, adversaries became teachers, their obstacles only sharpening perception, tuning it to pick up signals others miss entirely. With every disappointment, instincts were recalibrated, learning to see beneath the surface and read what isn't said. The lessons intended to break the spirit instead built a rare form of discernment, able to catch deception before it even has a name. Where most are distracted by noise and distraction, awareness now lingers in the unscripted pauses and the silent patterns beneath the visible, fully attuned to the reality that's unfolding beyond appearances. Some people simply arrive with a sixth sense for hidden motives, picking up on what's left unsaid, unraveling stories others work so hard to conceal. When integrity runs deep, deception and envy are no match. They announce themselves without meaning to, even as they wear the costume of support. This level of perception unsettles anyone who survives by camouflage. Logic alone is never the only guide. A finely tuned intuition steps in where reason leaves off, picking up every minor signal others are trained to overlook. Unspoken truths ring louder than words, and real intent shimmers just beneath every interaction. A different signal fills the space wherever truth is lived, sending quiet ripples that unsettle what's false. It's not something that can be performed, Even silence brings things to the surface, exposing what needs to be seen. The air shifts after a real one leaves. The energy rearranges, prompting unexpected realizations and a fresh measure for what's genuine. Authenticity becomes the benchmark that causes others to question their own reflection. Presence alone becomes a catalyst for uncomfortable awareness, dismantling masks without accusation or confrontation. There is power in simply standing firm and refusing to perform for the crowd. The world trains people to blend in, to mold themselves for acceptance, to survive by echoing what's safe. But standing for truth reveals how fragile those personas truly are. A wordless standard shines like a beacon, illuminating everything built on pretense. Clarity and self-assurance radiate outward, and those who've built their comfort on illusions begin to feel the ground tremble. There's no need for argument or correction. What's real makes what's fake impossible to ignore. The journey takes an unexpected turn as the main character emerges, never by force but through unwavering authenticity. For those who spent their time weaving plots and stacking obstacles, realization comes late. The lead role was never theirs. All efforts to trip or diminish only resulted in strengthening the very person they hoped to erase. What was meant as an ending transformed into a new act, one where the truth-bearer stands untouched by every attempt to undermine, their story now the one being told, and survived. Some carry a resilience so rare that it unsettles anyone who ever tried to erase it. Standing tall after so many storms, every breath is a quiet testament to a defiance that can't be silenced. The world threw shadows, slander, betrayal, and engineered chaos in hopes of pressing delete, but what they meant as erasure only fueled adaptation. The fact that strength still radiates, clarity still shines, and peace is unbroken is the unexpected outcome no one planned for. Each attempt at sabotage became a blueprint for growth, every rejection a catalyst for new wisdom, every wound a resource for self-mastery. This evolution strikes fear in those who never wanted their target to realize just how unbreakable they could become. The impact runs even deeper. What was meant as an endpoint has turned into an unavoidable confrontation for those who hoped to bury their own flaws. Simply being present calls forth all the hidden parts they never wanted to see reflected. No words or exposure are needed. Just the existence of a new chapter, living proof that old tactics failed, is enough to stir restlessness in those who thought victory was theirs. Progress becomes a silent reckoning. Growth turns the tables, and calm achievement becomes a mirror they cannot turn away from. Then, as reality rearranges itself, comes the twist that redefines everything. What was experienced as adversity was actually preparation for something larger. The roles reverse in a way nobody anticipated. The trials, the losses, the schemes, they weren't obstacles but the raw materials for building something just. Those who played games of destruction now find themselves exposed by the very situations they set in motion. Where once they believed themselves to be in control, they discover they were merely actors in a story they never understood, one that holds them accountable for every choice they made in the darkness. In all the silence, there was never surrender, only quiet confidence gathering force. Seclusion was not a cage but a council, where strength gathered in the shadows and the next chapter was drafted far from curious eyes. The patience shown was never passive, but the anticipation before a new day. The ultimate realization comes too late for those who tried to diminish what they could not control. The most dangerous threat was never what stood before them, but what could rise after every attempt to extinguish it. With every false story now unraveling, and every accusation returning home, the only option left is to retreat, not because the battle was lost, but because truth emerged from the fire, untouched and undeniable. Certain individuals spark such a deep recalibration in the fabric of existence that the landscape itself begins to favor them, shifting boundaries and unseating old authorities. When a path is carved outside conventional hierarchies, those who clung to the previous order find themselves bewildered by changes that can't be reversed. The confusion that settles in isn't passing. It's a sign that the foundation has been moved, and the familiar ground no longer exists beneath their feet. The lines they drew to mark status and dominance are gone, and every sign, every unexpected outcome, whispers that reality is now responding to a new directive. The contest is finished, the outcome decided, and the laws they ignored have returned, bringing with them a reckoning they never prepared for. What was once an attempt to destabilize another has turned into their own undoing, not by retaliation, but by the sheer momentum of neglected universal balances finally asserting themselves. Presence has now become a force that disrupts the material and intangible alike. Environments adjust in subtle but undeniable ways. Communication devices inexplicably falter in the midst of attempts to undermine, and even idle conversation grows thick with the tension of unspoken truths. The resonance of inner conviction becomes palpable. Its very touch unsettles the machinery of falsehood and renders manipulation ineffective. The stronghold isn't physical. It's built from unwavering resolve and invisible laws that transcend all visible defense. Where others struggle for advantage in endless skirmishes, real influence now arises from aligning with the silent architecture of destiny, from drawing strength from sources others cannot perceive or measure. Now, merely entering a space is enough to shift the mood. Reputation precedes and lingers, carrying a current that causes even the most self-assured to waver and rethink. Former rivals become uneasy, not because of confrontation, but because of an unplaceable sense that they are being measured by a standard they never acknowledged. The unspoken effect ripples outward, distorting plans and unsettling the very air around discussions of past events. Technology hiccups, narratives unravel, and convenient explanations fall apart when faced with the presence of someone who has tapped into something beyond ordinary comprehension. The ties that once sustained opposition lose all power. The illusion of control crumbles. The deepest warfare is no longer waged with visible weapons or arguments, but by a quiet alignment with the unseen forces that direct the current of fate itself. As the old antagonists find themselves increasingly isolated and diminished, the realization dawns: their entire identity depended on the one they opposed. With that focal point now beyond reach, a void opens, and the emptiness reveals how little substance was there to begin with. The cycle has closed, and the one who outgrew the battlefield now stands unchallenged, no longer defined by opposition, but by the boundless expansion of their own becoming. Some people's journeys radiate such genuine victory that it changes the entire atmosphere, making even skeptics pause and reevaluate. The narrative once stacked against you is now being rewritten, spreading with an intensity that can't be faked. The same circles that echoed rumors now vibrate with stories of resilience, the whispers of your renewal growing too persistent to ignore. Individuals who once looked away now search for answers, drawn by the force of a transformation that defies explanation. Momentum has shifted, old alliances are splintering, and those who joined in your exclusion are facing betrayals they once enabled. The web spun to trap you are unraveling from within, dissolving under the very weight of their own deception. In the midst of this, there's a quiet irony. Your very presence seems to unearth guilt in those who convinced themselves they carried none. Without accusation or demand, your calm disturbs the structures others built around pretense. The space shifts. People sense a disruption not from confrontation, but from a living reminder of what honesty can look like. You bring no grudges, but growth itself creates discomfort for anyone anchored in avoidance. The peace you've carved out is a silent message. Wounds have healed, forgiveness has outlasted bitterness, and your evolution outpaces their old justifications. Standing before them now, you embody the kind of change they've avoided, a vision of strength their doubts could never destroy. There's a tension here that can't be shaken off. Where others buried their conscience, yours has become a beacon. No one's shamed or threatened, yet your transformation forces reflection simply by existing. Their chaos is thrown into stark relief by your tranquility. Their self-denial grows louder next to your truth. This invulnerability was never something granted. It was always present, waiting for the right circumstances to rise. The adversity meant to suppress you became the exact catalyst for abilities they never imagined you possessed. Now, your ascent is unstoppable, and the ripple of your authenticity continues to unsettle every false narrative left behind. There are rare individuals whose breakthroughs combine resilience, self-mastery, and spiritual insight into a current that cannot be interrupted. When these forces converge, the result isn't just strength, it's a whole new trajectory. Not only did adversity fail to break your spirit, it became the raw material for something beyond endurance. It transformed you into a presence that cannot be contained or measured by familiar standards. Then, a quiet realization dawned, a kind of certainty that replaced striving with effortless authority. All those hours spent reflecting, all the silent commitments made when no one was watching, every internal recalibration, each became part of an unseen blueprint that set the stage for your next act. The true shift happened when you let go of the compulsion to be measured by someone else's yardstick. No longer fueled by the need for outside validation, the urge to perform for unworthy audiences dissolved. A life once choreographed by other people's stories was left behind. Permission was never granted. It was seized, quietly, in the privacy of your own resolve. Withdrawal was never defeat. It was a deliberate move to claim your own domain, far from the static of other people's opinions. Stepping back from their stage, their constant evaluations, and their rules wasn't escape. It was the foundation for an entirely new kingdom built from within. Suddenly, the most intimidating thing about you wasn't aggression, it was detachment. No force, no argument, no campaign could shake the quiet confidence that grew in your absence. You weren't there to challenge anyone. You simply became unreachable, living in a frequency they can't interpret. Attempts to bait or trigger you fall flat. The levers they once pulled are no longer connected to any reaction inside you. Where others spread chaos, you found your own rhythm, immune to the chaos they hoped to create. Their games became irrelevant. The entire competition faded from your awareness. Evolution erased the need for triumph over others. The only win that matters is self-transcendence. Nothing in their world registers as a threat anymore. Victory was never about crushing opponents. It was about becoming untouchable. You outpaced every tactic, not by confrontation, but by refusing to participate in their battles at all. The only thing left in the dust is the memory of a game you simply stopped playing, and a life that now answers only to the standards you set for yourself. There's a rare clarity that settles over those who have finally witnessed the purpose behind their pain. Once the veil lifts and the truth of your own nature becomes undeniable, all former struggles are recast as necessary catalysts, not burdens. The universe, it turns out, was never working against you. It was quietly shaping the kind of strength that doesn't just endure, but cannot be threatened. Adversity, once seen as senseless, is now revealed as the greatest sculptor. Every disappointment carried within it the blueprint for discernment. Every setback, the seed for an ability that sets you apart from anyone who ever doubted you. The journey itself, with all its hidden turns and closed doors, was not meant to keep you small. It was the fire that forged an inner resilience so profound, ordinary threats can't even find their mark. What was once interpreted as abandonment or injustice now stands out as training ground. The isolation others intended for your harm became a sanctuary, a crucible where your greatest talents and insights quietly awakened. Betrayals morphed into opportunities for self-mastery. In places where most would collapse, you learned how to rewire your instincts, to move with intention and not desperation. The landscape you now inhabit feels unfamiliar to those who never dared to evolve. It's a reality governed by a different set of laws, one where sabotage, slander, and manipulation lose all potency. Those old strategies can't gain a foothold, because your new awareness has made you untouchable by their games. Each time you refuse to be defined by their limitations, you expanded the very ground beneath your feet. Arriving here, every past experience becomes fuel for growth, not ammunition for regret. You see now that every wound has become a portal to another level of consciousness. The wisdom you carry is encoded so deeply that it radiates outward, shifting circumstances before anyone else even recognizes a change. There is no going back to the old dimensions. The boundaries that once confined you are nowhere to be found. This is what it means to step into a space where fulfillment is the starting point, not the end goal. No longer tethered to outside approval or external battles, your life has become a testament to the fact that true victory isn't granted by others. It's inherited the moment you claim yourself, whole and unafraid. Here, the old weapons turn to dust and every ounce of your power is finally free to express itself without limit.